Hello, fellow Voyagers. Jess here with Odyssey Human, here today to talk about make the new version of yourself a habit. Welcome to the channel. This is a place where we help you hack through the jungles of consciousness so that you can discover the hidden treasures inside of you. And my friends, everything is there for you, ready to be activated. If that sounds good, please subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel. I am away for the holidays, so filming in a new location for the next couple of videos. And today I just want to kind of give you some information and reflect upon how do we know we're in wish fulfilled? How do we know when we are the version of ourselves that has what we want, right? Often people are like, what do I do to get there? What do I do to be the person who has my desired? What do I do to be the person who's living in my chosen reality? This is my experience. This is what I found. Sometimes you already are that person. What I mean by that is I experience it as sometimes when I manifest, I will just get a brief flash of something that I want in my mind. Sometimes it's an intentional flash, like I will put it there. Sometimes it just organically flashes into my mind and then the thing manifests, right? These are what could be considered simple things, easy things, small things, right? And those are all relative judgments because it all works the same way, right? And so sometimes though we perceive, when we are manifesting the quote unquote, the bigger stuff, we may perceive that the person that we are now versus the person that we want to be, who wants to be a millionaire or married or, the CEO of a huge corporation, we perceive a little bit more distance between where we are and where we want to be. And so the process that I want to pose to you today is making the new version of yourself a habit. Now remember, there are a million versions of you who has this thing, who is that person already, right? And those infinite versions of you are all different. They have all different mindsets, right? Let's take, for instance, let me give an example from my life. I manifested roughly 2 years ago a dream job. And I was having this realization as I walked down the stairs in my apartment after getting the job. I was like, oh my God, I feel exactly this, like the same person I was while I was unemployed as I do as having the job. Like the version of me, the two versions of me were pretty much identical, except one had a job and one didn't. And so I wasn't any more happy than I was in the two versions, right? There wasn't that big of a difference between the me who had the job and the me who was looking for the job, right? Who was wishing for the job, wanting the job. I was still living in the same place. My routine was essentially the same. I was still kind of working from home in both situations. And so there wasn't a lot that was different. And I was like, wow, this is crazy, except I have a job. And so that's one version of the me who, had the position. Whereas, when I got the job, I could have also been a version of me who had moved, who decided to, go into the office, whose life looked very different than the me who had the job. So remember and be aware of which version of you who has what you want do you want to embody? Because I think we automatically go to, oh, I'm going to be so happy. Things are going to be so different. My life is going to be like a 180-degree change. It's not always going to be that way, and it doesn't have to be that way. So whatever version you pick, once you identify like, okay, this really feels like the next version of me, that wasn't that far off from where I was to where I want to be, then all it takes is really just making this new version of yourself a habit. So we just have to choose over and over again from this new version of us. And so What we want to do then, and this is especially for situations where we perceive like, whoa, I'm going to be a really different version of me when I get this thing, when I am this person, when I obtain this thing. And remember, be it now, make it a habit now, and then in making it a habit, you become it. You become it. It is you. You are that person then. And so, that is something that you can do right now. You don't have to look for evidence in the 3D reality. Let me give you a different example where there is a little bit bigger jump. When I was planning my conference a few months ago, I started out super confident about it. I was like, this is going to be a piece of cake. I got this event planning piece, easy peasy. And then I somehow, somewhere, I started to interpret, whoa, I'm scared. I'm scared. I've got fear coming up. The confidence, I felt like I had lost it. And I had a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of like panic, a lot of how am I going to pull this off? How am I going to make this happen? So many things to organize. Oh my gosh, I can't rest. I can't sleep. And I was like, I recognized I had switched into a different version of myself, right? Both versions, the confident version of me and the fearful version of me, were planning a conference. Both of them were planning a conference, but the experience that I was going to have really depended on from what narrative I chose, right? Either the experience leading up to the event was going to be fearful, painful, anxiety-ridden, or it was going to be confident, it was going to be calm, it was going to be, I was going to organize the chaos and maintain a level of peacefulness and like, okay, I can do this. It may be intense, but I can do this. That kind of quiet confidence. And I had to choose. I realized like those two versions of me I was kind of like, I would have moments of both of them, and the fearfulness was kind of winning out. So remember, all you have to do, and what I did, I made a conscious decision. I am going to act like the confident person. I am going to choose from that narrative. I'm going to make all of my decisions from that narrative of being the confident person. What would the confident person do? There used to be a WWJD, what would Jesus do? Back a million years ago, I remember it was like a trend. What would the version of you who's in the narrative do? So you are going to choose from the narrative. And when you do that, because our two faculties are what's the story we're telling and where's our attention going? When you really lock into the story, into the narrative, you choose, you're like, I am a confident event planner. I chose from that, and then that was where my attention then followed, right? So you keep choosing. You may not believe it yet. I didn't completely believe it. I didn't know what was going to happen with the conference. I didn't know how many people were going to show up. I didn't know. I felt like I could not control that part, right? But I could decide to be confident. I could decide to see everything as a success. I could decide to celebrate no matter how many people showed up. I was going to celebrate it. It was a success. It didn't matter because it was a success. The confidence was the conference was going to be a success no matter what. And so I was going to act from confidence rather than fear, right? And again, this was a future event. It wasn't even happening. This was all, again, in my imagination. And this is what we do. So make the new version of yourself a habit. Lock into the narrative of this is what is true for me. I'm going to make my decisions from this place. This is what you actually do. This is the step of how you live as the person who has your desire. You make your decisions from that place, from that narrative, from that viewpoint, from that perception, from that perspective. You make your decisions, your big decisions, your little decisions, right? And it starts to point you in doing that. Like that's your that is the way that you show yourself, your subconscious mind, your God self. That's the way that you become. That is the way that you become, right? You put the skin in the game by choosing from that place, by choosing and believing in the narrative that what you want is yours now. Who you want to be is who you are now, and you keep choosing from that perspective, from that narrative, and your attention will then, you'll find your attention will then orient towards that playing out, towards everything else then molding around that narrative, because that's who you are. You essentially make a habit. And how do we make things a habit? We keep choosing over and over again. So keep choosing it. Don't stop choosing it, right? And there were instances. So once I decided I'm going to be this confident event planner, the conference is an event, is a success no matter what. I'm going to keep choosing from that. And I had things come up that challenged me, right? That wanted my attention to say, uh-oh, we have a huge problem. Uh-oh, this is, things that I could have interpreted from a fearful perspective. And when that came up, I felt myself slipping and I was like, nope. When we feel that negative emotion, it's because we are being tempted to choose from a different perspective, right? And that's our emotional guidance system telling us to get back into the perspective, back into the driver's seat of the person who has it and see it from their eyes, see out from their eyes, see their world, see and stay in it, right? And stay in it. And that because it feels good. It should feel really good to you. It should feel peaceful. It should feel good. It should feel natural. It should feel. And again, we keep practice. If it doesn't feel like any of those things at first, that's okay. Keep practicing. We practice by choosing, continuing to choose from that perspective. And guess what? Looking back, the conference was a success. It was a success. And my memory of planning the conference it was intense, but I had it. I totally had it. I had it the whole time. It worked out. Like, I got some amazing speakers. People showed up, even though there was another huge conference happening that same day. People still showed up. Like, it was a success. So, and you'll believe it over time, right? I really believed it the day of the event. I was like, wow, I pulled this off. I did it. I was exactly what I thought I could be. I was that person. And that was an intentional choice where I made a habit of being that person. So make it a habit to be the version of you that you want to be. Again, it may be a small jump for where you are now. It may be a large jump. Don't beat yourself up. Don't judge yourself for picking a little bit more audacious goal like I did, of being a version of myself that wasn't fearful, anxiety-ridden, panicked. It's okay. In doing that, you may have to just stay aware in your decision-making of choosing from that place, right? You may just have to keep being conscious of choosing from that place, and that is totally okay. You practice it until it's a habit, and then one day you got it. Like, you got it. And then the next time you do it, or whatever the goal is, you're like, I already am this. I am this. It becomes easier when you see yourself go through this and you're like, wow, that was, it took a little bit more concerted effort in choosing from the choice. And sometimes, my choices in that situation were active choices, right? I was planning a conference. This could also be mental rehearsal. I talked last week about mental rehearsal. If you haven't seen that video, I link it above. Are you choosing to think from the perspective of the person who has it? If you are mentally rehearsing, right? Because when we believe something is true, we will mentally rehearse things to experience them in our imagination, work them out, figure them out, plan them out, enjoy the details. That's what we do, right? It gets externalized into our world, into our into our reality, which is a waking dream, and then we see it in the 3D. So again, the choices that we may be making, if it's, I said, quite a bigger jump, if we perceive it as a bigger jump, like if we're single right now and we want to be married, or if we're broke right now and we want to be a millionaire, it may start as mental rehearsal, right? But again, the choices that we make too, as we start thinking from that narrative, from that perspective, from that perception, our attention aligns, and then we're going to notice we're going to make more and more choices from that place. We're going to see more and more opportunities to choose as that person. And in doing that, we are it, right? We're practicing being that person. And in doing that, it becomes habitual, it becomes automatic. And then it is. You are that. You are it then. You're it in the doing. You're it in the being. You are it. You are the version of yourself that you want to be. So I hope that made sense. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. Drop a comment below if you have any questions or need assistance with something. I'm happy to engage with you. Have a great day.